Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. I'm a life and marriage coach for moms, wife, mom of 3, and I'm also an Aries, and for my fellow human design nerds, a sacral manifesting generator. This podcast is for women who want to be happier in their marriage as they navigate their journey through motherhood, even if you're like me and you weren't shown how while growing up. Inside, we're going to be talking about breaking generational cycles when it comes to how to handle conflict in healthy ways, redefining motherhood your way, and prioritizing your well-being, because here, we believe that women don't have to sacrifice their happiness to be a great mom. And a quick note to mamas listening with kids around, you may want to pop your earbuds in because nothing is left unsaid on this show, which means there may be times where something I say isn't meant for little ears. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. This week, we're going to be going to part 2 of how to feel more understood by your husband. And we're going to dive into how men and women communicate differently. So, if you have not heard last week's episode, or actually this week's episode, which is all about how to feel more understood by your husband, part 1, go back and listen to it. Right now, I'm going to be actually sharing part 2 of that. And that is all about feeling more understood through the lens of how we communicate differently as women with our husbands, okay? Like, I'm sure you know by now that it's very different, right? Like, it sometimes feels like we don't get each other. He doesn't get us. And it can be frustrating. It feels like that's the thing that's stopping you from feeling really connected with him. And you just can't understand why. And maybe you've even questioned, like, why is he so shut down? Why is he so reserved? Why doesn't he open up to me? Is it something wrong with me? You know, like, all of these questions may be running through your mind. And I'm going to be sharing with you different things for you to take into mind when you have these thoughts running through your head, so that A, you don't think that there's something wrong with you, and it's really just clear differences between us and our husbands, so that you can start to set different expectations from the conversations that you're having and make adjustments so that you can actually feel more connected and understood by your husband. All right. So first thing I want to share is that we both, men and women, communicate for different reasons. We have different goals when we communicate. Men communicate to exchange information. Okay. It's very point driven. I'm going to give you this information. It's going to be a very straight answer. I say what I mean, and that's that. Okay. Whereas women communicate to connect, right? So as I'm sure you know by now, women tend to be better at remembering details, right? About birthdays, anniversaries, small details about your kids, and so on and so forth. Whereas men, it's just like, do you even know your child? I mean, they do, right? But it seems like we're more tuned into the subtle details of the things that are going around us that pertain to relationships, yeah? Whereas men are really great at remembering how to do things that are purposeful, functional, all right? And the reason for this is because men have more of a, historically, right, ancestrally, a hunter mentality. Now, when you think of a hunter, it's very laser-focused effort, right? They have their eye on the prize, and everything outside of that is like a blur. So whatever they're fixated on, whatever goal, activity, or point they're trying to make, they're going to just focus on that, okay? It's just like when you're hunting, yeah? Whereas women tend to be more of the take a wide scan, like a wide lens approach of what's happening. That's why we're really good at looking for things, right? Have you ever had those times where your husband's like, I can't find the keys anywhere. And you're like, did you check this place? And like, yeah, I looked all over. And then you go in and you look at that place and you're like, it's right here. This is why, okay? We have a much different way of looking for things and taking in information than men do, okay? Neither is good or bad. It's different, right? And thank goodness we have both to leverage off of. And with this said, this is why, okay, listen up. This is why timing is really important if you want to feel heard and have an engaging conversation with your husband. Okay? Let that sink in a little bit. I'm going to give you a scenario, one which I've found myself in many times, so I too am guilty of forgetting this, but have you ever found yourself in a situation where your husband comes home from wherever, right? Work or out somewhere, and you're really excited to see him. You have things to tell him, right? About your day, about what the kids have been up to, about work, about whatever, anything, yeah? You're really excited to connect, to share this information, and inquire about his day, how things have gone for him. And it doesn't seem like he hears you. It kind of seems like his eyes are glossed over and he's there physically, but he's not actually there. It just seems like he's not really listening, right? Like, and when that happens, what happens in our mind, right? We're like, why isn't he listening to me? Doesn't he care about what happened in my day? If he really loved me, he would pay attention to me. Why are we so disconnected? Why is it so hard to have a conversation? Like, when I talk to my friends, I feel really seen and heard, but like when I talk to him and, it just like, it goes on and on and on. And we like create this story with all these reasons about why he's not listening, when really timing is the reason why it doesn't seem like we have their full attention. And I'll explain to you why. Okay. Men are so single focused that they actually need a transition time. Yeah. So from the point where he was doing whatever he was doing to coming home, he needs time to transition into home life. And until then, he's not available. He has no capacity. Okay? He can pretend, but it's not all the way there. All right? So until he feels settled in this new environment that he enters into, he will not be ready to converse with you. What you say will sound like Charlie Brown's teacher, right? Like if you're not familiar with Charlie Brown, it's like, wah, 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 wah. Like you cannot decipher what words are coming out. You just hear sounds. It's just external stimulus. Okay? With women, it's just like, yeah, I'm ready. What do you want to tell me? I'm here to listen. Because we're so relationship based, okay? We love to connect with people, and we want to make sure that we, in a sense, help whoever we're talking to feel like they're really seen. We like to please people, right? This is why people pleasing is so strong within us. Okay, we are seeking to create a really loving relationship with whoever we're engaging with. And ancestrally, right, men were the providers and women were the gatherers. And if we did not please the men, they would not provide for us. Okay, now this is like survival instinct stuff. It's like dates way back, right? And we want to come off as, okay, so the more information I get from you about yourself, the more information I have to be able to make your life really nice. Our relationship will be stronger, and I'll be able to know like what I want to buy for you for Christmas, what I want to cook for you, or what I want to plan for you, you know, all of that stuff. Okay? We want to appear like, yeah, I'm a good wife. I'm a good woman, whatever, right? But for men, they need that time, that break. Okay? Now this is super true in all situations, actually. In the car, like let's say you guys are driving somewhere as a family. I'll take my example of driving down to Disneyland recently. Last month, my family and I went down to Disneyland, and we drove because we live up in Northern California, so it's really not that bad. It's about a 7-hour drive, right? And for me, the car is like, oh yeah, it's a great time to like talk and have a long time to catch up or whatever. But for men, they're so single focused. They want to meet the goal of, okay, my purpose here is to get us to point B. And so I'm going to focus on getting us to point B. And because I am a female, I'm like, I want to connect. I want to talk. We don't often have this much time to talk and you know, with minimal distractions because, you know, the kids are preoccupied with whatever we have for going on for them during the car ride. And meanwhile, my husband's really focused on getting on the 5, which is like the big stretch of highway to get us down to LA from our house. And from the point that we leave our house till we get to the 5, he's just like driving, right? Just like focusing on getting there. And if I try and talk to him about something that requires thought, reflection, ideas, anything like that, I will have no luck. Why? Because he's focused on getting to a point where he can relax and settle in. But at that point, until he gets to the 5, that's not happening. That is not happening because he needs, in his mind, to get to that place in order to feel like, okay, we're on our way. I'm settled into the environment and I'm good to go. Okay. Now, a really great way to tell if your husband is available for conversation is when he starts to look around. He doesn't look so intent and focused on what he's doing. And maybe he'll even ask you a question like, how's your day going? How did this go? What do you think about this? Right? That's a really, really great cue for you to be like, oh, he's ready. Let's go. Let me talk about what I want to talk about. Let me answer his questions. Let me ask him questions, things like that. All right. So things to keep in mind for sure, because I don't want you to continue feeling like he doesn't want to listen to me. That's not it. We just have to choose the right timing. Okay. I know that, you know, a lot of times when you have something to say, you might feel really anxious about sharing, but you also have to remember like what's going on for him. What's going on with him? Is he wanting to relax at home and he's watching a show and you just come on in and just start talking, right? That's probably not the best approach because he wants to watch the show, which is why he's sitting down to watch the show. So if you want to talk to him, what's been helpful for me and my clients is getting their attention and asking if it's a good time to talk. Because otherwise, even if it looks like they're doing nothing that matters in your opinion, you are interrupting them by just starting off with like a really like whatever, like, hey, I can't believe this happened, or hey, let's plan the school week or school year together. And he's like, what? I'm sitting down watching TV. I'm relaxing right now. Like the single focus, right? Like this is what they want to do. And when they want to do that, they're going to do that. But if you ask, that's a sign of respect. Respecting that whatever he's choosing to do is exactly what he wants to do. And when you ask, you're giving him the choice like, hey, I want to do this. This is important to me. when's a good time, is now a good time, however you want to ask, then at least he could choose like, yeah, okay, let me stop doing this. And you guys will be able to go back and forth and collaborate and work as a team. Whereas if you kind of just like pounce on him with this topic and he's just like, it could be annoying, right? Like to be interrupted. I know I don't like to be interrupted. So just keep that in mind and make sure that he's looking at you. Like, at least this is true for me. If my husband's talking to me and I'm not looking at him, he needs to pretty much assume I'm not listening to him because I'm like focusing on something else. Okay. So don't assume that he's just always ready to hear what you have to say. You gotta get his attention and check in with him if he has the capacity or if he's available to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Okay, just like look for those cues. Like, does he look settled in? Does he look available? Is he talking to me? Right? This is not a permissive kind of thing. It's more of like a respect thing. Like, okay, like I don't want to like ruin his downtime, but I do want to check and I do have things to say. So you still get to share, just pick the right timing so that you don't end up getting frustrated and feeling like you're not heard, you're not understood, you're not being supported. And that's the key. Okay. And I understand this could be hard because I am rather impatient myself, right? I'm an Aries. And for those who are into human design, I'm also a manifesting generator. So I'm like doubly impatient. Like when I want to talk about something is when I want to talk about something. When I want something is when I want something. So it's been a really strong practice of patience and also respecting my husband and his process. Okay. Now the final thing I want to leave you with is how women and men have different motivations for communication. Okay? We have different motivations. So men communicate to exchange information. It's very transactional, whereas women communicate to connect, right? And with that said, when men talk to you, they are looking for two different things. Now, if you are fine, like your mood is fine, you're not upset or anything, anytime you speak to him, he's looking for the point of what you're sharing. If you see where I'm going here, let me know. All right. Sometimes women just like to talk just to share, right? There actually is no point in what we're saying. We're just sharing. I want you to know this about me. I want you to know this about my day. I just want you to share it. I don't want you to do anything with it. Just want to share. Right? Where you're talking about maybe a trip to the grocery store and something happened, right? Nothing to do about it, just sharing. Yeah? Well, if the story goes on too long and he doesn't see a point to it, guess what happens? He checks out. It's like, oh, there is no point to this. That's a really big difference between us and men, right? The second thing is, if you're not fine, let's say you're upset or frustrated, whatever, or sad, some kind of negative emotion, uncomfortable emotion, I should say, because there are no negative emotions. But let's say you're uncomfortable in some way, upset. He is very laser focused on finding the problem. That's it. My wife, my partner is uncomfortable. She's coming to me because she wants me to fix it. And I'm here to protect her and fix it. Yeah. But for women, when we share things that happen, we don't always want a fix. We just want to empty out, to feel like someone hears us and we could share this with them, right? It feels like so good to be able to empty out and feel like, okay, I can breathe. I got it out of myself. I got it in my head. I can now think clearly and have the clarity to resolve this, right? But as you can see, if their point is to problem solve, but we don't want a solution from them, we just want them to listen, this can easily turn into conflict. Okay, this can be perceived as, why is he trying to solve it for me? Does he think I can't fix it myself? Does he think I need a savior? Does he want to control me? Why is he interrogating me with all these questions? But if you keep in mind that he is motivated to help you through this issue that you're bringing to him, hopefully you'll stop seeing it as those things that you may be believing about what he's doing, like his intent, okay? He is trying to help. And even if it's not helpful, it's important to remember, oh, he's trying to help. And so if you don't like how he's dealing with things, when you bring him information that you don't want a solution to from him, at least, you have to let him know. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to be like, why aren't you letting me speak? Why are you being so blunt? Why are you asking me all these logical questions when really this is about emotions, right? And emotions are not logical at all, right? Emotions are very natural and very necessary, by the way, and offers a lot of feedback to help support our own self-awareness. And actually self-awareness covers it all, right? Do we need boundaries? Do we need to do something? Do we need to take action? Do we need to talk to someone about something? Do we need to stop doing something? Do we need to continue doing something, right? It offers a lot of feedback. And it's important to cue your husband what you need from him. Then take specific directions really well, okay? Because, like I said earlier, they say what they mean. And women tend to not, unfortunately, right? We tend to try and soften what we say so that it's more well received. We try and curate it, yeah? Whereas men are just like, well, why didn't you just do this? And you're just like, oh, that's so brash. But really, they're just trying to help you, yeah? And so because we communicate so differently, it's important to know, oh, you're trying to do this. How can I adjust how I say something so that you understand me better, right? We kind of have to meet in the middle. You can share that, hey, I'm not looking for a solution right now. I just need to get this off my chest. Can you listen? Can you just listen right now? And then he's like, okay. Takes off his problem-solving hat and he just listens, right? And that's that. It really is that simple. You just really have to teach them, because otherwise, they're going to talk to you like you're a dude. You know, that main difference of guys who argue, they just hash it out super quick. And they're like, high five, pound it, we're good. Women, they're like, we got to talk about this whole thing, about how we feel, what happened, and what it meant, and blah, 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 blah. It's very drawn out because it's very relationship-based, right? We like to let other people in, and we like to discover more about the other person, their motivations and what's going on with them. So it's very, very different. Not to say it's good or bad. We just have to acknowledge our differences so that we can keep those in mind when we communicate. So when you tell your husband something, just think, oh, he's looking for the point. If he looks glossed over and there is no point, you can either be okay with it or you can find a point, right? Or you can be like, I don't need to tell my husband every single thing. I can tell my girlfriends, right? There are things that are probably better to talk about with your girlfriends, and you'll get that satisfied feeling of oh, I feel heard, I feel seen, right? And then there's obviously things that you want to discuss with your husband, in which you may want to think about, what is the point of what I'm trying to communicate? and meet him halfway, right? And let him know exactly what you're looking for out of the conversation. So those are the things I wanted to share today. I hope these are insightful for you and helpful for you to help you have better conversations with your husband and feel more understood, because you deserve that, okay? And if you are looking for support around enjoying your partnership again, loving your marriage, and really solidifying the relationship that you have with your husband, whether it's communication or whether it's like working as a team and feeling connected again, reach out, right? Send me a DM. I'm happy to talk. We can figure out how we can get you back to that point, or if you've never been there, how we can get you to that point so that you can have the relationship that you saw for yourself when you said I do. Great. And that's all for this episode. And I will catch you next week. Bye. And that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I hope that this episode helps you deepen your relationship with your husband and, more importantly, with yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a second to rate and review it. Each review helps us to help more moms just like you have a more fulfilling life and marriage, because we all deserve to have that and so much more. If you want to help spread the word, take a screenshot and share this episode on your IG stories and tag me at Michelle Perda Coaching. And if you'd like to request a specific topic for a future episode, put your request in by sending me a DM. See you back here next week. Bye.